You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with your hosts, Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on!
Get it on, we should. Mike Sempervive, Wrestling Observer Live. We shall, we should, we will. How about that? No Brian today, you know that. He's on the way back from Cannon Beach, where, well, he needs a vacation from his vacation. So hopefully, now that he's on his way back home, everything will become regular and normal again inside the Empire, including his recording schedule, which was thrown all asunder this week. One, because he was out of town, and, well, also because his computer went out of town as well. But he seems to have all those things fixed, and doesn't matter if they are or not, because he's back in the home studio tonight to do a Brian and Vinny show. I believe Craig is invited over for that one again, too, so he will be there. We're back to Granny this week as well, so that's enough cleaning up at the home front here. You're here to talk about wrestling, and wrestling we shall talk about. Raw was last night. I know you're excited. It wasn't an awful show either. It was a long show. It was every bit a 3-hour show. The final Raw leading into the WWE Stomping Grounds, the very well-selling pay-per-view taking place this upcoming Sunday in Tacoma, Washington. Bossman will be there for that one with live visuals on what's taking place. But we've also got news on the G1 as well, including Jon Moxley, the former Dean Ambrose. It was announced that he's going to be a part of the G1 Climax, but he will not be part of the G1 Climax in the United States. New Japan issued this statement saying Jon Moxley has been confirmed as a participant of the G1 Climax 29. Unfortunately, Moxley will miss the G1 Climax 29 opening day taking place at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas on July 6th. Additionally, he will not be in attendance at the G1 Climax 29 press conference taking place July 5th, 2019, also in Dallas. Moxley will join the G1 tour on July 13th in Tokyo. He has not been advertised for the show. He is going to return to New Japan on July 13th when they go back there. Why? Because AEW has his North American rights, and that's why he will not be performing in Dallas on Access TV Live coming up on July 6th. Got any thoughts on that? Or on anything pro wrestling? Give me a call, 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. We'll be back. Oh, look at that. Dom loves me playing two phones. Yep. ASMR kids. Got the peach Red Bull this time around. This one's a good one. It's not even seasonal, too. Peach Nectarine. It's a winner. Just like this show. 1-800-878-PLAY is the number to dial if you want to be a part of it as well. At Sempervive on Twitter. At Sports Byline USA. Going to go right to the phones. Why not? Tim in Miami. Tim, how are you?
Hey, what's up, Mike? We saw Raw last night. I thought it was one of the more entertaining shows that I've seen and held my attention far longer than some of the more recent ones. But what I was really irritated about was, this is like the fifth time in a month where they promised something, used it as the basis for their advertising for a week and then not delivered on it with the naming of the referee. And I don't know what this company is, but they just feel like they can lie with impunity. I mean, this is like I said, the fifth time in a month they've not delivered on this thing. And then Brian and Dave were reading their application for an Emmy nomination. They claim to be the longest-running episodic television show in history, which is patently false. And that's something that they submitted to television experts. What is up with this company just bold-faced lying to everybody?
Well, unfortunately, it was the show that nobody got to hear last week because of all the technical nightmares that were taking place. But, yeah, I listed the category of the Outstanding Structured Reality Program, which in itself is a hilarious name, and the word structure is applied to anything Raw and WWE. But, yeah, I kind of questioned whether or not anyone would know if it was good wrestling or bad wrestling or what a good show is or what a bad show is, because how the hell would they know? I mean, we can comment on it and all that sort of stuff, but just the fact that it's been nominated and accepted in, this plea to go up there and even possibly be voted on is kind of hilarious because it is filled with inaccuracies, and Dave loves pointing out guiding light. He loves pointing out Portland wrestling. He will point out the original run in history of World Championship Wrestling, which started as Georgia Championship Wrestling eons and eons ago. So, yeah, I mean, it's hilarious when you think about it. And it's also even more hilarious when you put it up against shows. And, Tim, I don't know if you're a big TV watcher. I got to be honest, I'm not. But I look at some of the shows that were listed there, like Queer Eye for the Straight Guy and so many of these other shows. And I just kind of scratch my head and wonder exactly how WWE would beat any of them anyway.
Yeah, Mike, General Hospital has been on the air since 1963. That even trumps the Guiding Light, which went for like 50-something years. But I just want to say, I think you and Brian have a better shot at winning like a freaking Peabody Award or something for that crap bag audio from last week than WWE has any shot at winning an Emmy with Raw.
Tim in Miami, thank you very much. I will take that as a grand compliment. Thank you for calling into the show. Yeah, I just lost it here, but I want to find out exactly. Let's see, it was outstanding structured television programming. That's what the category this is in. The outstanding structured reality program. There's nothing structured, and unfortunately, I guess there are too many real things taking place with WWE's programming right now when it comes to the headache that it is. But here's just a couple in that category of shows that they will be competing against: Shark Tank, Mythbusters, Antiques Roadshow, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, Undercover Boss, Lip Sync Battle, Who Do You Think You Are, Queer Eye, let's see, Fixer Upper, that was the one from HGTV. Well, Shark Tank's won this thing 4 times. Extreme Makeover, Home Edition, and Undercover Boss has won it twice. I'm sure there's somebody out there. In fact, if you are out there that wants to make a hard sell on why WWE Raw right now deserves more than any of those other shows, including a win that Taxi Cab Confessions never got in the 2 times that it was nominated, you can call in and let me know, 1-800-878-PLAY. I don't think Nick in Vermont has any hard sell to give me on that, so we'll just let him talk about whatever he wants to talk about. Nick, how are you?
Not too bad, Mike. How are you doing?
I won't complain too much. Raw didn't kill me, so, that's always a plus.
So I had a couple questions for you. So do you think,
what you got?
Since WrestleKingdom will be 2 days long this coming January, they could build to the rematch between Okada and Jericho for one night and then do Tanahashi and Jericho the next night?
You could absolutely do that if you wanted to have Jericho in there. You certainly could. The issue there is, if you're Jericho and if you're AEW, do you want to see him look at the lights on both shows? Now, I know you don't necessarily have to, but if he's competing against Okada for the IWGP title on their biggest show of the year, I don't see him being Okada. Even if it was on their smallest show of the year, I don't see them beating Okada with Chris Jericho. And then you have that where the next match is going to be against, it's legend versus legend with Tanahashi. And, to me, that would be, I would think, the only match you would do if you did one at all. If that's not a match that you do before 1-4, I mean, you could do that on that weekend or on those 2 days and get it out of the way. But I don't even think that if it's all up to me, I'm not sure if I use Jericho on that show or Omega or anybody else that is wrestling for AEW that I didn't have to. If there's any thought of them being able to kind of sell out on their own, I don't know if I'd put those people in feature positions because they're going to come up big, and the only thing you do is have your fans pining for them to come back, and I don't know if that's necessarily the thing that you want.
Yeah. I was a numbskull who emailed in about Billy Kay the other day. Apologies to Brian for misunderstanding what he had said before. So, other question was, today's the 1-year anniversary of Big Van Vader's passing. Any good All Japan or New Japan matches you would recommend me watching with him?
Okay, well, I mean, the first one right off the bat, if you haven't seen it with Inoki, just for the reaction of the crowd and how, big of a deal that was. That was his debut in New Japan. And
is that
he puts him over like he kills him. Yeah, I mean, that's the one, he hits him with the suplex and he looks like he kills him and everything. And that, that was, that shook everybody up because he goes in there and wins. But like that was a great one to start with. There's plenty of tag team matches Oh, excuse me as well, too. During the break, I'll actually pull up a bunch of them in IWGP title offenses and stuff like that. You know, Vader and Hansen as well, too. I'm far more versed on his New Japan stuff than on the All Japan stuff, but I'll come up with a list for you and let everybody knows what it is at the break. So, Nick, I really appreciate the call. We might as well slip in one more here before we go to break. Jason in Fort Lauderdale. Jason, how are you?
Doing good, Mike. How you doing today, brother?
I will not complain. What's on your mind?
Really the main thing that I wanted to talk with you about today is, I mean, there's a million things with WWE booking that I would love to talk about, but the main topic of discussion I wanted to talk about was how Vince is booking Roman Reigns at the moment. Like, if you fast forward to over a year ago, back at even less than that, back at SummerSlam of last year, you had him go over against Brock Lesnar, and he got booed severely, and nobody really cared about him. And then he announced that he had to fight cancer. Once he fought the cancer, and then he came back, he was, in my opinion, I thought he was one of the most over guys that they had in a while. And then you fast forward to today with that feud he's been having with Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre, and it's like, you know, after, I'm not looking at what's going to go happen with him now. I'm just thinking about, like, what's going to happen to him in the future, because he's been, after losing to Shane at Super Showdown, he's been looked kind of like a geek. And I just want to know your opinion of what you think the future is going to hold for Roman Reigns after he finishes this feud with Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. Like, is he going to be in the title picture? Is he going to have a feud with somebody else? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Jason, I hear the music coming up, so I will take this right after break. I will say this: if you're a big Roman Reigns fan out there and expect there to be anything other than Roman Reigns in the top mix, you shall be wrong, although some rehab is certainly in order. But we'll talk about that when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live. Caught a mean text at the break, asked me why I didn't tell that gentleman about matches that Vader had against personal hero of mine, Generalissimo Takada. Nobuhiko Takada. Not in Generalissimo form, but in worked shoot form for UWFI. Yeah, watch those. If you're a UWFI fan, watch those matches. And actually, even more than that, he did have one against Kiyoshi Tamura, or Tamura, however you want to say it. That was not my favorite style of wrestling. I appreciate shoot-style wrestling, but I was never a big fan. Adam Summer's a monster fan. There are other people that were monster fans. I was a big amateur wrestling fan, or am. I'm a big boxing fan, and I'm a big pro wrestling fan. And I've always had problems with the way that was presented. I've always had issues with the way that those guys had trained back in the days. I mean, they were seriously hurting each other, putting these moves on. And it was hard. Again, it was just hard for me to feel as though if I'm not being worked and I'm getting a legit open hand palm strike in the face, like, I don't know. I'm just going to go ahead and fully fight. But I always had a problem with that style, but that's neither here nor there. Guys who were great at that style, Vader in some ways being one of them because of how big he was and how much of an impression that he made upon the scene. It was really something else. But Volkan is a name that you hear, and Tamura is the other one that you hear. And a lot of people will point to Volkan. Again, a lot of people that are sorry to me about the style, but Tamura is by far, in my opinion, from what I've seen, you'll hear names like Sakuraba. Look, I'm not saying Sakuraba was an awful pro wrestler, because that wouldn't be fair in his style. He was good, but that charisma that he had in the MMA ring, all that never translated to me. But you know who did? Tamura did. And matches with Tamura and Vader from UWFI back in the 90s, 93, 94, around that time were certainly something else. That was also the time. I mean, Vader's reputation really by that point was already made. And as I mentioned, his first match with with Inoki that he had was massive. And from there, he had matches with Shinya Hashimoto, who was in fact, I think he was the biggest box office in Japan. He was the third musketeer that American fans don't really know. They know Chono, they know Muda. They didn't know Shinya Hashimoto, who was by far the biggest star of the three in Japan. There were those matches there. He had one with Bam Bam Bigelow against Hase and Muto in 1992 and that was a May Dome show that he had that with. Matches in All Japan against Kenta Kobashi in 1999, January of 1999. Misawa and Vader, May 2nd, 1999. Vader and Stan Hansen, that was the one I was thinking of that I think may have given credit to New Japan for, but with Vader and Stan Hansen where he knocks his eye out in that legendary match. You know, you put in Vader on YouTube, you're going to be able to find some really good ones that pop up there, so... I had to open up Cage Match for that. I don't have that callback mind anymore. Dates and things like that get jumbled away as I've gotten older, so I apologize. But those are all great ones to start with, as well as so much good stuff in WCW as well, too. I mean, that was kind of an era that gets slept upon a little bit unless you came up with it, you know, that Dangerous Alliance era that a lot of people look at. You know, if you grew up in that era, you don't want to hear about WCW taking a step back, even though in the grand annals of history, you know, both they and the wrestling business had at that time. But Big Van Vader was one of those, shiny moments that they had there. Matches against Ric Flair, hard matches against Sting. You know, those are the matches Sting and Vader have had where people point to Sting and say, you know, you don't think that guy can work? You don't think he could stand in there? I mean, he was fantastic in those matches with Vader. So Cactus Jack, all that other good stuff that he did there too. So there's a ton of Vader out there in case anybody wants it. The anniversary of his passing, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's also the anniversary of Bruiser Brody's passing, being murdered in Puerto Rico. I'm not sure if that's exactly the date. I believe it may be. So sad times there. I got another sad one, too, before we get back to the phone calls. Just came over the wire in ESPN. Police in South Carolina have put out a missing person advisory for former Philadelphia Eagles and Carolina Panthers running back Rod Smart. The Lancaster County Sheriff's Office says that Smart, perhaps best known for his He Hate Me jersey in the XFL, was last seen Wednesday in Indian Land, South Carolina. It is unusual for him to be out of touch for this long, police wrote in the advisory. Mr. Smart's family is worried about his safety and well-being. Smart, who is 42, played one season for the Eagles in 2001 and 4 for the Carolina Panthers in 2002 to 2005. He came to fame for his He Hate Me nickname, which he was allowed to put on his jersey for one season of the XFL in 2001, and of course had that, you know, famous shot of I forget who it was doing the reporting on the field, running up to him, and you know, what about the name on your jersey? He Hate Me. Who hates you? They hate me, baby. Everybody hated him. They hate him for being so good. He Hate Me, Rod Smart. So hopefully we can get an update on that before the end of the show, and regardless of whether we do by the end of the show or not, hopefully it ends okay. But we might as well go back to the phone calls now. 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878. Oh, and let me just throw this in here too as I make everybody on the phones wait and Dom to double clutch there against the board. When it comes to Roman Reigns, just to follow up on what Jason in Fort Lauderdale asked, I don't know if, you know, exactly how much quote-unquote rehab he needs, but he certainly, you know, I would put him on a nice run here, considering he is trying to overcome the evil Shane Empire, and that's really what it's about for The Miz. The Usos, I think to a lesser degree, they may be, you know, shuffled out of that mix now. But certainly when it comes to The Miz and when it comes to Roman Reigns, you know, they're facing off against the Force, and Roman Reigns has got to go through everybody, including Drew McIntyre, to get to Shane and conquer him that way. And I don't think that there's any doubt that he's going to be the focal point of that company. And I think is far less damaged by anything that's going to happen in this feud, although it has been awful. It really has been. Build-ups for some of these have been awful. I mean, look at Baron Corbin getting beaten by Kofi. And granted, you have the caveat of it took Kevin Owens to super kick him in the face, which led to the pin by Kofi. But again, it's like this dude has, I believe, taken 2 L's in a row, and he's the one that's supposed to be facing off against Seth Rollins for the title. And granted, you still have the asterisks that Tim in Miami mentioned that they didn't follow up on this week, which is he's going to have a special guest referee there, but still. It's you had him, again, take the L to Kofi. Why? You could have had Kofi pin Sammy again or whatever. I don't know. I thought it was nonsense. And in fact, you could have had Baron knock out Kevin Owens, considering Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are going to be involved in a tag match with the Usos. You could have had him get knocked out or something like that by a big move from Baron, and then have the match end that way. I mean, I don't know. I guess they looked for the out on Baron. They just, to me, didn't do a very good job of it. But long story short, and when that whips back around to Roman, he is, I'm not saying he's the safest person on the roster because, there obviously is the history of people booing the hell out of him. But I think at this point, I'm not saying that those days are completely behind them, but I don't think any issues with him are going to be as bad as they were before. But, hey, I've been wrong before. We'll find out. We'll finally take it back to the phone lines now. Poor Jim in Virginia has been kind of waiting there in the queue for a while. Jim, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Mike? Did you get the tweet I sent you about Tony Storm impersonating Minoru Suzuki?
I saw that you had that there. Yeah, I think they did. It was I can't remember. I'm pretty sure that was Stardom. I didn't look at the quick, but yeah, it was, basically like kind of dress up as your favorite wrestler day sort of thing that they did there. I can't remember the specifics behind it, but I remember her doing it.
Yeah, it was pretty funny, I thought.
She's incredibly talented, and she's, over in NXT UK, hopefully the American audience gets to see her more, although I have a feeling it's going to be just probably on big show weekends, but as long as she's able to continue to go out there and work occasionally on the indie scene, at least she's going to be able to kind of stay in people's minds a lot more, because she was certainly one of the hottest people out there, bar none, in 2017.
Exactly. Another thing, where is Asuka and Kairi Sane at? What's up to their tag team?
Good question. No clue, Jim, and I thank you very much for the call.
Take care, Mike.
Not you two, not a damn clue. And Paige as well, their mouthpiece and manager. I guess they just decided to go in a different direction with Billie Kay and with the other young lady there who Dave incredibly insulted. But regardless, thank you. Yes, Dom in my ear with it. I don't care. They're the Iconics. That's it. They don't even have names anymore. They're just the Iconics. They can only do one story at a time. The same way I can only have one thought in my mind. Just pushes the other one out. The same when it comes to them in the tag team situation. You can't build two teams at once. If you're building up some sort of weird situation with Alexa Bliss and yeah, help me again, Dom. See, look at that. Quick on the draw with last night's Raw results. Nikki Cross. Thank you. See, too late. Nikki Cross, also formerly of Stardom. But Nikki Cross, and you can only have one team, I guess, be involved in the mix. And with her and Alexa doing their thing, which is certainly seems like it's going to end with a match between Alexa and Nikki Cross. Until that time comes where they're being faced off against the Iconics, no other team can function. So, again, I don't know if they're floating around. I don't think they're on main event. I think the Viking Experience took that spot on the last main event. So, yeah, I'll double check and see who they've been working with on the house shows or anything like that. But unfortunately for right now, at least until this pay-per-view is over, not involved in the mix. But got a full bank of calls coming back. If you want to join those folks, you can. 1-800-878-PLAY. I'm Mike Sempervive, Wrestling Observer Live.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Shout out to Angry Peyton, Royce fans, angering me during break. Wrestling Observer Live, we're back. Mike Sempervive here with you. We're going to go back to the phone lines here momentarily. I will note that Fight TV's Twitter decided to break the news. I think they broke the news. It seemed to be up on there before it was anywhere else. But we've got a match for buy-in before the Fighter Fest show. It is the Best Friends of Chucky T and Beretta against SCU, against Private Party, who I believe the last time Private Party was seen, they were getting thrown against the guardrail and getting beaten up and not allowed into the over-budget Battle Royal a couple weeks ago. But they are all involved in a tag team match, the winner of which will advance to All Out and receive a first-round bye in the tag team tournament. So we are going to have a tag team tournament taking place on the All Out show. And I don't know if the whole thing will start and finish there. I would assume it would. I wonder how many teams that they're going to be. I'll assume it's just 8, which means, 4 matches? So 4, 2, 1. That's not too bad with what you got coming up as well, too. You got Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley will be on that show. You have, what else will be on All Out as it stands right now? Hangman Page against Chris Jericho for the AEW title. So with the tag team tournament, you add on a couple more, and that's shaping up to be a pretty good show. And obviously the focus of AEW, one of their focuses, as they've said, is going to be on tag team wrestling. I'm a big tag team wrestling fan. I was one of the people that bought the Crockett Cup, just harken back to the 80s where there was just so many great tag teams, and it was such an important part of the business and the mix and how you further storylines along. And I just, I'm still a big fan. So that's the one thing I'm hoping AEW really does bring back strong is tag team wrestling, and it looks like that's how they're going to get off to the start. What's also been announced for that show so far, Fighter Fest, Jon Moxley and Joey Janela, and Hangman Page against Jungle Boy, Jimmy Havoc, and MJF. That card certainly going to expand out a little bit further. We did a Big Audio Nightmare this morning, a really quick one, Adam Summers and I, and it's going to be up on the site a little later on this afternoon. Adam keeps blowing me up, asking me where the preview of the show is. I got it. I'm a little busy right now, all right? Sorry. But one of the matches that we noted was a kind of a match that makes us happy, even though there's no G1 presence in Dallas of Jon Moxley. Once they go back to Tokyo, and once they go back to Japan, and he has his first match, and I'd have to see exactly where it's, what building it's going to be in, but he's going to have his block play match on the 13th, and then it's going to be tag matches, and this is really where I'm interested in seeing Jon Moxley in New Japan, because obviously, we saw the last match, and you figure he's going to step up on a big stage, and at the very least, you're probably not going to be too disappointed no matter who he faces off in New Japan in a big singles match. But it's this stuff on the other end, like he and Shota Umino against Ren Narita and Jeff Cobb on Sunday, July 14th. I love that. And I think, the matches he's going to be involved in, both tag and 6-man and stuff like that, they're going to be as fun for me as I think some of these big matches that he has coming up in his block. And there are some big ones in the block. I'll run down the list right now to you before I go back to the calls. G1 Block A. This is your money block. This is the one that a lot of people expected Jon Moxley to be in, but he obviously couldn't because, as I mentioned initially, AEW with his North American rights, putting the kibosh on him being seen on Access TV, at least live, or being seen anywhere in the United States live. But Okada, Tanahashi, Ibushi, Zack Sabre Jr., Evil, Sonata, Bad Luck Fale, Lance Archer, Will Ospreay, and Kenta. It's a hell of a start. Block B, this is probably better for Naito and his health, too. You got Naito and Ishii, and I know, Tomohiro Ishii, not probably the best for his health, but Juice Robinson, Toru Yano, Hiroki Goto, Jay White, Jeff Cobb, Jon Moxley, Shingo, and Taichi. If you're going to put him in one of those categories so his body can rest a little bit, that'll probably be it. But what's also very noticeable, and we talk about this a little bit on the show today, it wasn't our G1 preview show or anything like that, the big one we do every year, but it's hard not to take a look at it and kind of take a look and see whose names are at the top of both blocks. There's Okada. There's Tanahashi in one. There's Ishii in the other. Of course, there's Moxley and Jay White. And then there's Tetsuya Naito on the one. Kota Ibushi on top of the other one. And you start to wonder, can you top this? Should you top this? They probably shouldn't, but will they? Because that's a very good possibility to be your final, as you lead into who's going to pick up the briefcase to face off against Okada at the end of the year. So, or the beginning of the year on January 4th. We'll have to take a look at that. Go back to the phone lines now, 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Christian in Connecticut. Christian, how are you?
Hey, I was, first of all, card, I was amazed. I just think it's a really missed opportunity for them to sell the rest of those tickets to not have Taichi on that card. Yeah, that was kind of shocking to me. And with Raw last night, I had two questions. First of all, did you see that Dana Brooke photo? She got busted open real hard on the turnbuckle for a main event taping that probably won't even get shown because of it. And then also, I flabbergasted because I thought there was no way that Raw was not going to end with us seeing Brock Lesnar in a ref shirt. And do you think that's where this ref storyline is going? Because I can't think of any other real place for it to be going with the whole Seth Rollins beating up everybody who wants to do it thing.
Well, as far as what do you think? What I think about where the Seth Rollins laying everybody out and what the finish of the main event's going to be?
Yeah, do you think it because I think it has to be Brock Lesnar, right?
That's what I would figure. I mean, the way things have been teased. I mean, but I don't know if to me, and I want to thank you very much for the call. I'm not using Brock Lesnar in that position. I'm really not. It's just kind of, I don't know. It seems like a waste to me. And frankly, the way ticket sales have been, if it was going to be Brock Lesnar, why not just announce that at the end of the show? And maybe they don't care. I mean, I can't believe they wouldn't care about the tickets. I mean, Dave and Brian talked about it last night on Wrestling Observer Radio. We know they've tarped off a bunch, and everybody's kind of put out there about how well they've been selling. So if you're looking for something to kind of push things, I mean, I would figure Brock would be able to do that, and the guarantee of Brock being there in the mix would be able to do that to people. So I don't know if I'm using them there. I really don't, and I don't know who the special ref's going to be, but for some reason, I just think Brock teasing that he's going to be there is okay. Him being there, and raising the briefcase up, but I just don't think I'm pulling that out of his hands right now, especially the way TV is and everything. To me, I just want to have him have that card, and I also think if you do use Brock, then Baron Corbin's got to win the title because somebody's got to screw Seth Rollins. He's got to F5 him. Something's got to happen. I'm not big on Seth Rollins overcoming everybody, including Brock Lesnar, and keeping his title. I don't like that idea at all, but I like the idea of Baron Corbin as champion even less. So I don't know who they're going to use in that position or somebody coming back. I mean, there's a bunch of people that they could use, but I saw Seth Rollins be the only baby face that after going on a rampage last night got left laying kind of at the end of Raw. So him getting his revenge on Baron Corbin and getting the victory in that match, that's what I want to see. Now, who the referee is and how they decide to spin things off, I guess we'll see. But I don't want Brock to be that guy. I don't want Brock to be that guy. The same way that Taichi would not be that guy to help sell out the American Airlines Arena. And I have a feeling, even though he hasn't been announced yet, he might be there. I mean, it's Taichi. And if you don't want to see Taichi, you just want to see what he comes to the ring with. So there's always a possibility he could show up. You never know. Back to the phones. Josh in Los Angeles. Josh, how are you?
Hey, good, Mike. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Looking at this picture of Dana Brooke, all bloodied up and everything. So, yeah, ref threw up the X and stopped the match. So Dana Brooke, bloody mess, probably that will never be seen other than pictures online. But sorry about that. Go ahead.
No worries. So I had two questions. First, speaking of ticket sales, do you know by chance if the tickets for Raw last night did particularly poorly? Because I know that being in the LA area, I got more aggressive advertisement than I've ever gotten before. I got 4 or 5 emails telling me to buy tickets last week, and I got a bunch of targeted Facebook ads all throughout the week that advertised 3 different matches, 2 of which didn't happen. So I didn't know if you heard anything about that. And my other question, I guess, is more of a hypothetical, but what's the point of the wild card rule at this point? I counted it and looked at SmackDown's roster based off of WWE's website, and there were 13 different people from SmackDown last night that were on Raw. So it just seems like it's back to the super show days where there's no brand split at all anymore at this point.
No, believe me, Josh, thank you very much for the call. I didn't hear anything about tickets. The only thing I had heard, and I don't know if Dave and Brian talked about it last night. I know I was talking with somebody about the 2-for-1s and things like that, the gimmicks and promotions, giveaways that they're doing up in the Northwest and in the Seattle area to try to push that house and push those tickets. But Didn't hear anything about L.A. last night, although it won't be hard to find out. Probably not by the end of the show today. Certainly tomorrow, I'll forward this on to Brian, too, because we can find out for sure exactly what they had in there and how things were going with the walk-up and everything on the lead into the show and everything. But hard times there when it comes to crowds. G1 in Dallas, hard time when it comes to crowds. No matter what, I mean, we're talking in glowing terms about the G1, but their idea to come to Dallas has not been good. Ring of Honor is going to be in Baltimore coming up for a big show. It's Matt Taven and Jeff Cobb. I'm not sure exactly how the tickets are going over at UMBC, but it's where they are at every year for Best in the World. They kind of do that, then you go down to the Patriot Center usually for a TV taping on that Saturday and Sunday, I believe it is, because I believe the Best in the World show is a Friday, but apparently those tickets are not doing so spectacularly. So AEW right now is the only big ticket seller, of course, that they've only got a couple of shows here under their belt and only a couple coming up, and even they're not sold out. The All Out show, of course, did. A big destination event that is basically looking like their WrestleMania for sure in Chicago every year now, but the Fighter Fest show and that other stuff, that's not sold out. And there is a little bit to mention on the Fighter Fest show in that Laredo Kid, who a lot of people have seen the buzz about because of the match with Hijo del Vikingo. He has been added to the Pentagon match with Phoenix against the Young Bucks, and on June 29th, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega at Fighter Fest. So AAA wrestler Laredo Kid, who also had time in Lucha Underground. I'm not sure where else he did as well, too, as far as being seen on a national scale, but he'll certainly have the opportunity teaming with the Lucha Brothers against the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. So that's also been announced for June 29th as well, too. Look at that, a whole show on a Tuesday where we talked very little about Raw. That's okay. I'll get you set up with the SmackDown preview when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live. Back on the show, Mike Sempervive here with you, Wrestling Observer Live. No update on Rod Smart. No updates on John Moxley or any of that stuff. But I do have updates on what will be taking place tonight on WWE SmackDown. Don't have time for the full preview of the show tonight, so I will just let you know what you need to know from over at WWE.com. Xavier Woods and Dolph Ziggler squaring off as Stomping Grounds is near. Yay. Let's see what their whole headline here is for this with their WWE speak. Woods and Ziggler have mixed it up numerous times since Ziggler's return last month, including a chaotic brawl on Raw that saw the two wild cards battle all over the arena. Woods, of course, ultimately played a vital role in the WWE title match at Super Showdown, which led to Dolph petitioning for a steel cage rematch at Stomping Grounds. Will Xavier get one last measure of retribution against Ziggler before his New Day brother Kofi gets at him next Sunday? Or will the show-off make the ultimate statement to Kingston by downing his friend just 5 nights before their steel cage clash? I don't care, because Dolph Ziggler is not going to beat Kofi Kingston. And if you're a Kofi Kingston fan, you have the same concern that many other Kofi Kingston fans do, which is Brock Lesnar takes the title off of him and goes to Fox on SmackDown in the fall before he ever takes it off of Seth Rollins, which I can definitely see that taking place. Bayley and Alexa Bliss on a moment of bliss before the Stomping Grounds match that they're going to have for the WWE Women's title. What will be the fallout of Roman Reigns' attack on McMahon and McIntyre? Will Daniel Bryan and Rowan finally accept Heavy Machinery's challenge? And can R-Truth hang on to the 24/7 championship? Exciting stuff. I'm mostly looking forward to Carmelo and R-Truth, to be honest with you. You can't blame me. By the way, they follow up on the Titus O'Neil stuff from last night, too, on WWE.com or anywhere else you will find your WWE videos. So that will be explained more in full, in case you're curious. In case you're curious, we're here every single day. Tomorrow, in fact, with the Boss Man being back. Thank you, Producer Dom. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This is Wrestling Observer Live.